Our model speaker today is Krawchuk. No matter where you go, no matter where you go, Krawchuk.
Madam Contest Chair, fellow Toastmasters and guests, would you like to hear a story? Great. Once upon a time, there were two little boys, and they were playing with matches. Picture this, crouched side by side in the narrow alleyway. The 6-year-old boy watches intently as his 8-year-old brother tries to strike a match. Once, twice, 3 times he fails, but on the 4th try, a flickering flame leaps into life. The acrid odor of sulfur fills the air. He holds the match under a crisp brown oak leaf, which instantly bursts into bright flame and quickly dims to a gray ash. Laughing with frightened delight, the boys bolt down the alleyway, check their speed at the last second, then saunter out into the inner city back street, the very picture of innocence, glancing at each other with the secret smile of a shared adventure. But later that day, when they return home, there stands their mother, hands on her hips. "What's this I hear about you boys playing with matches?" The 6-year-old is stunned into silence, and the 8-year-old can only stammer, "Who? How?" The only fire now is in their mother's eyes as her angry gaze swivels from one boy to the other. "Never forget, no matter where you go, someone's going to know me, and I'm going to find out what you did." Well, the two little boys took the message to heart, never played with matches again, and lived happily ever after. The moral of my story? You too can live happily ever after if you live your life as if your mother was watching everything. Friends, I have a confession to make. That 6-year-old boy was me. And that omniscient lady was none other than my own dear mother. Would you like to hear more of her story? Stella was her name, although I called her Mommy at the time. And she was the best mommy a 6-year-old boy could ever wish for, even on those times when she'd find me out. As I grew, her name quickly changed from Mommy to Mom, and her life wasn't dedicated exclusively to staying 3 steps ahead of her 4 sons, much so it may have seemed that way to us at the time. She was also a keeper of family tradition and a consummate hostess. She was never happier than when she presided over large holiday gatherings, the extended family seated all around. She was also a peacemaker, never wanting to see any discord among family members, especially on those special occasions. But I remember one Easter breakfast when I was 17, when those endearing traits were sorely tested. Now, Easter breakfast is one of the most cherished traditions in the Krawchuk family, stretching back innumerable generations, back to the old country and beyond. That day, almost 24 of us were seated around a large dining room table, heaped high with traditional Polish delicacies, things like babka, holpshi, płatki, and so much more. The air was a melange of their rich aromas, and the whole house echoed with the sounds of the celebration of the season when the phone unexpectedly rang. Well, Mom walked over, picked it up, answered it, then looked directly at me and said, "Thank you, Peggy," and hung up. Now, I could tell from that look that I was in trouble. But Mom, she just reclaimed her seat, and we went on with our wonderful breakfast. It wasn't until after the last guest left that she finally cornered me. "Remember that phone call? That was Mrs. Dealey, and you know what she told me? She said you and her Michael were out in their garage last night smoking pot!" No matter where you go. Fortunately, I was innocent of the charge. But think of what that said about Mom. There is no way she would have considered interrupting that perfect day, and certainly not without hearing all sides. And when I did present my side, I'm not so sure she believed me. "You better not be lying to me. You may be 17, but you're not so big that I can't take you over my knee." And I believed her. Years went by, I grew into full adulthood, established a career, married, started a family, and Mom's name changed again, this time to Mother. But there was no change in her caring wisdom, although she could still surprise me with the direction that wisdom might take. For example, when I was 35, I stumbled across a lucrative opportunity to start my own information technology consulting firm. I was going to hire employees, incorporate the whole kit and caboodle. Of course, I was concerned. I was afraid that striking out on my own would quickly turn into striking out. Of course, I went to Mother for her advice. She listened as I explained, hand on her cheek. Kenneth, do it. Because if you don't, you're going to regret it the rest of your life. Well, I learned before I was 6 years old not to argue with my mother, so I quit my day job, hung up my shingle, and much to my surprise, the venture was wildly successful. But Mother, she wasn't surprised. She just tossed off one of her favorite lines. I have faith in my boys, and you should have faith in yourself too. Over the years, Mother was faced with innumerable challenges, and she met each one with the same characteristic aplomb. When her gallbladder had the gall to malfunction, out it came. When her youngest son was diagnosed with cancer, she wore out 2 sets of rosary beads before God finally relented and handed down a miracle cure. And when she found herself chronically short of breath, there was no question she was going to get that heart valve fixed. But not until after my granddaughter's wedding, thank you. And on the night before she went into the hospital, can you guess what she did? Threw a big Polish dinner for the family. And for dessert, half jokingly, she served up some final words. Never forget, family is important. So no matter what happens tomorrow, you boys stay together. Do you hear me? And the next day, when she woke up in the recovery room, her eldest son was there to return the joke. Well, Mother, looks like you have to come up with some new last words. As it turned out, though, those words would have to do. Complications set in, and 3 days later, her long years of giving came to a quiet end. We call her Saint Stella now, not merely for the long saintly life she lived, but also because of all the blessings she bestowed upon her family. And although she's moved on to claim her well-deserved eternal reward, there's no question she still watches over her 4 boys and their 6 wives. Her 9 grandchildren, 12 great-grandchildren, and the one on the way, and her great-great-grandson. And there's also no doubt that her wisdom, her prayers, and her love still follow them all, no matter where they go. The moral of my story? If you live your life in the style of Saint Stella, not only will you live happily ever after, so too will all those around you whose lives you touch, no matter where you may go. Madam Contest.